thank, as always, and introduce our phenomenal, amazing PTA representatives on here today. I believe we do have Michelle Hatch. Michelle, do you want to just come off mute to say hi to everybody? And actually what I can do is stop share, so then if you do talk, we can see your faces maybe a little bit better.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here today. I'm Michelle Hatch, one of the PTA co-presidents. Wendy Ray is the other president. She just couldn't be here today. I just want to take a quick second to let you all know that tonight is a Morris Branded Spare Night at Chick-fil-A on Howell Mill Road. So if you care to join us all, it's a drive-through spirit night. I'll go ahead and put a link in the chat to the kind of how-to participate, because you have to download the app. But we'd love to see you all there. So please, it's from 5 to 8 p.m. So hope to see you there.
All right, awesome. So we are able to maybe even meet some people in person tonight. You came in a good night. Spirit night is tonight, and Michelle will put a link in the chat box for that. And I also want to introduce one last person who put all this together, Miss Karen Barwani Solomon. Hello, welcome, Karen. Thank you for doing this. She heads up our, and actually, Karen, why don't you say hello to everybody?
Hey, thanks, Jay and Michelle. So I'm heading up the Prospective Parents Committee for the PTA. And so hopefully everybody who is considering Morris Brandon has my contact information, and I think it's on the flyer, and if not, we'll be sure to give it out again, or I'll put it in the chat so you can ask me questions and at any point in time, like parent type questions.
Well, awesome. And actually brings me to my next point, because a couple of housekeeping routines that we can do here is I did enable the chat, which means that as we go through our presentation and we talk, feel free to type some questions into the chat box. If it's a parent type question, Karen and Michelle can do a great job of answering that. If it's a administration type question, Mr. Hudson can help answer that. If it's a kindergarten based question, Miss Tracy Birch can help to answer that. And then also I will ask Miss Michelle at any point if there are any questions that I can answer, and we'll do that as well. So without further ado, let's get started. And I'm going to reshare my screen. One thing I do want to show you is just a little bit about our school. And you should be able to see our website really quickly. And I just wanted to highlight this. We have made a really, really big effort in streamlining some information for this year. And making sure that information is accessible and easy to find for most of our parents, or for all of our parents. So I do want to direct you to morrisbrandon.com, where we put a lot of information up here. The most updated, the newest information to come out from Atlanta Public Schools and Morris Brandon is generally right here on this landing page. And you can read a little bit about this. And then we also started a parent university page, knowing that we have been virtual since March. We do want to make sure that our parents are able to access critical information, videos, trainings, tutorials, and so forth. So on our Morris Brandon University page, you can click on the tabs up top. You can look at important information. You can scroll down. You could even see the town halls that we held at the beginning of the year. And the very first one was all about kindergarten. And I do recommend that if you want to learn a little bit about how this year has been going for us from a little bit more of a detailed perspective, feel free to watch that at your own time, on your own leisure. I think that would make for great Thanksgiving viewership. Okay, well, let's get started. Share my screen. We're going to present. So as everybody knows, for the most part, hopefully you know, that Morris Brandon has been virtual since March. It's been challenging. It's been very rewarding as well. And I have to say that I am just beyond impressed with how our students, our staff, most important, our teachers and our families have been able to handle it all. I will tell you that we don't really know what the future is going to hold, right? We don't really know what's going to happen in the next week, let alone the next year. So our focus on today is going to be about the great things that Morris Brandon has done, will do, will continue to do. The focus around the presentation is not going to be so much around our COVID protocols and procedures and virtual learning. However, we are happy to answer some questions around that if you do have. But I do want you to know that we were projected to have about 950 students this year. And you know, when the pandemic hit, our numbers dropped a little bit. We are still the largest elementary school in all of Atlanta Public Schools. And on August 24th, the first day of school, we logged 858 students and being present. And today, almost 9 weeks in, we are at 855 students. So we really, our attendance and enrollment has remained pretty steady since we started. For those of you that do not know, I wouldn't be able to do this job if I didn't feel comfortable enough to put my own child in a kindergarten class. So for those of you that don't know, I have a kindergartner that started this year for the very first time of school and has been doing an incredible job. And it really does make my job easier when I don't have to focus so much on and worry about his learning and how he's doing. And I can tell you that it has not been easy for everybody. I think it goes without saying that virtual learning and you know, struggling to learn online, especially for some of our younger students, can come with challenges. But I also think it's important to note that it's doable, and we are doing it, and we're doing a great job with it. My son is now about 9 weeks into kindergarten. He's loving it. He's thriving. He has a phenomenal teacher, and really we're seeing learning happen, and we're really proud of him. Again, I have to say, it's not always the same for every child, even as you get older. But I do think that an APS has really identified some of our highest need students as being our early learners. And I think it's important to know that our kindergarten students are doing a phenomenal job. We have 150 kindergartners at our school, which is almost as many as we had last year. So when you look at the numbers, you look at the interest in our school, it is still there. We are still doing it. We're still making it happen. And it really is because of the phenomenal teachers that we have, like Miss Birch, down at the K level. When I don't have to worry as much about my son and worry about, you know, his learning because it's going well, then I can really focus on the rest of the students and everybody else in the building. So I want you to know that. So let's get started as we move through our presentation. A little bit about Morris Brandon. You've probably heard some of the accolades, some of the awards, but let's talk a little bit about this. As you know, Morris Brandon is a National Blue Ribbon school. We are named a Georgia School of Excellence. We are actually gunning for that same award again this year. And I'm just going to remind everybody to put on mute. Hudson, can you mind putting people on mute for me? And then we just recently received our Common Sense Media Award, but most notably, and something that we are really proud of, because this is the work that Mr. Hudson and myself and our admin did hands-on, was earning a 96 on our latest CCRPI, which is our College and Career Readiness Performance Index measure of schools around the state of Georgia. For those that don't know, public schools are measured basically on a scale of 1 to 100. It's based off all sorts of criteria: students reading on grade level, academic achievement, academic growth, students participating in foreign languages, attendance, all sorts of stuff. So we, on my first year, at the end of Morris Brandon, that first year in 2018, 2019, we earned a 96 on our CCRPI. We were all geared up, ready to crush that score last year, to do even better. And then obviously we know that the pandemic hit and we had to move virtual. And then the state waived CCRPI for last year. So we did not have the state ranking for last year. And I'm not sure what it will be this year, but the good news is that we did finish off on a really high note. For those that also don't know, we are an International Baccalaureate school, IB school. We're going to learn a little bit more about that as we move forward. And then last but not least, what makes Morris Brandon really special is our Spanish DLI program, our immersion program, which is a one-way program. We are the only one-way program in Atlanta Public Schools, but we are not the only immersion program in Atlanta Public Schools. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that as we move along as well. But before I do that, Mr. Hudson or Miss Hatch, is there anything in the chat box that we should touch upon before we move on? Okay.
Nope.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Dwight, who's going to talk a little bit about our philosophy of educating the whole child.
Actually, Jay, can you talk about class sizes in kindergarten and paras? And that's already come up, and that's definitely one of our more common questions that we get when we're doing actual tours.
Absolutely. Let's do that. So let's talk a little bit about our class sizes that we have. We do have a slide a little bit later on that's going to review our who our teachers are and the staffing that we have. But I'm really, really proud to say that we have staffed kindergarten really phenomenally. The meaning that we do have 8 kindergarten teachers and we have 7 kindergarten paras. So altogether, we have one grade level that has 15 teachers that are going to be working with your students, which is just a really, really good, strong class size ratio. And I'll tell you what that is in just a second. Having these 15 people really helps to give that targeted support to our highest needs learners, whether they be virtual, whether they be in person. So with 150 students, if you do the math, divide that by 8, an average class size is right around 19. But you can't really take it that way because we do have 2 classes, our DLI classes that have 25 and 26 students. And then we do have a class without a para in kindergarten that has 12 students. So our class sizes will range between 12 and 25, with the average being right around 18 students. And every class, with the exception of one, will be staffed with a full-time certified teacher and a paraprofessional to work with your students. All right, Dwight, do you want to talk a little bit about the next slide?
Sure do. So we focus, and it's extremely important that we focus on academics. That's our top priority. But we also focus on the entire child, the whole child. And when we talk about that, it's not only academics, it's social. So we have social emotional learning every day, the social and emotional aspects, the physical aspect. We have PE specials and things of that nature, but we also have a 30-minute recess every day where we let the children get out on the field, run their hearts out, play on the playground, interact, and have fun. Because IB also has a focus on learning through play, this year we have a kindergarten playroom, and the children just go in there and it's free play, going back to the days when we used to just imagine and play and talk about, oh, I'm a chef and I'm a fireman, and they have dress up, they have kitchens, they have kinetic sand. There's all types of things in that room to just help the children imagine and have a good time within the classroom. As you know, it's important for us to connect with our children too. So every day during virtual learning, we've been doing announcements with the students so that we can connect with them. And when you see Mr. Bland and I around the school, and pretty much everyone in the school, we're just all very approachable. The children come to us, they ask questions. We're out there with them for recess at times, joining in PE, because we really want to make that good, strong connection with the children and just educate their whole child.
All right. Well, awesome, Mr. Hudson. Thank you so much. We'll keep taking questions as they pop up. Michelle, you can just kind of raise your hand. I'm looking at you if anything's in there. I do want to talk just for a second around our mission and vision, because this really is what drives the work that we do every single day. When I came on to Morris Brandon 3 years ago, the mission and vision were very long. They weren't very memorable. It didn't really stick with you. I don't think it really encompassed what our school was. So our school is governed by what's called a GO team, or a governance team. We are a charter system in Atlanta Public Schools. So we do have elected seats for our GO team. And together with our GO team last year, we did rewrite our mission and vision. And we also use this with our IB reauthorization visit, which we just had. And I just want to read it to you because this is what we start every staff meeting with. And we want to make sure that our families do understand what the mission of our school is. This is the mission of Morris Brandon Elementary: to develop students' academic, social, and emotional needs by engaging our entire school community to work collaboratively while fostering international mindedness and a love of learning. And I do want to jump really quickly to the vision, because this is something new that we've added in. It is the vision of Morris Brandon Elementary School to educate the whole child by teaching empathy, open-mindedness, compassion, and critical thinking, while giving every student what they need to be successful lifelong learners. When we give every student what they need, that's that equity that we talk about in the school, that making sure no matter what your student knows, or what their ability level is, or what their interests are, we are going to give every student what they need to be successful at our school. And as we talk through some of our instructional programs, hopefully you are able to hear a little bit about that. Do we have any questions in the chat box that I can help to answer so far? Okay. So let's talk a little bit about our instructional programs. And I tried to, and I will say this is the very first time we've done a coffee talk, Rising K coffee talk virtually. If there's anything in the world I want more, it's people in the building. It's Rising Kindergarten parents in front of me, so I can lay eyes on you, we can talk, we can have that conversation. But we are getting very used to Zoom calls and Zoom meetings and being the only person talking. So I apologize if I continue to go on and on. Please feel free to type some questions and so we can answer that. So we do have a very large gifted population at Morris Brandon. At the end of the 18-19 school year, and really last year as well, we had just shy of 300 identified gifted students. Generally, the highest population of gifted is up in our 4th and 5th grade. And obviously the lowest is in kindergarten because as you move through the grade levels, if you don't qualify for gifted, you can qualify for second look testing. And as you get a little bit older, generally, if you get accepted into gifted, it is around that 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade time. We do gifted testing for kindergarten. As a matter of fact, we are in that window right now, but we have paused gifted testing because it's one of those assessments that has to be done in person. It's just not an assessment that can be done virtually. So we are holding off until we begin to get our students back in the building. But just so you know that kindergarten students will be able to qualify for gifted and participate in gifted testing their first year at being at Morris Brandon. And that gifted testing generally happens around the November, December, January window for first look testing. Kindergartners do not get served gifted quite yet. They don't start their gifted services until really the very end of kindergarten. We'll start doing some activities with them, but then also in 1st grade, we'll ramp back up with that. I'm very happy to say that we have 4 full-time gifted teachers. These are gifted teachers that support some of the collaboration models that we have across the grade levels. But I'm also very happy to say that we have 42 homeroom teachers from K through 5, and all 42 of them are gifted certified. We have sent all of our teachers through gifted certification, myself included. So no matter if your student is gifted, certified gifted, or qualifies for gifted, all students are getting that creative thinking and some of those gifted skills as we move through the day. We also have an ESOL program for some of our English speakers of other languages. We offer push-in and pull-out models for these students. We have 2 full-time ESOL teachers who do a phenomenal job of teaching those students. We run an EIP program, which is called Early Intervention Program. It's actually a big funding factor for our school from state funding. And this really has to do with that equity policy that no matter what your learning level is, we are going to have something for you at Morris Brandon. So our EIP model is generally served in what's called a reduced class size model. So students that need that extra support, they generally just stay in class. They're with their homeroom teacher. We do very little pull out at Morris Brandon, and I'll tell you a little bit about why that is. But those students are tagged on our database on our Infinite Campus, and the teachers provide targeted intervention supports to them throughout the day. Some of our students, starting in 1st grade, will qualify for our intervention pull-out program, or EIP pull-out. And we're actually doing a great job with that with our virtual learning right now. We have not skipped a beat. But students that qualify for that, there's about 12 reading or 15 reading and 15 math on each grade level. And they get pulled out every day for between 30 and 45 minutes to get some targeted intervention from 1st through 5th grade. What's really cool is in the virtual model that we're in right now, we have what's called our WIN blocks. WIN stands for what I need. So every grade level during the day has a WIN block, a 30-minute WIN block. Teacher will stop instruction, and no matter who's in their class is going to jump on a different Zoom and go to wherever they have to go to get what they need. Maybe it's gifted, maybe it's ESOL, maybe it's special education services, maybe it's EIP, but we're doing that right now in the virtual model. Our teachers are crushing it, our kids are doing a great job, and we really just expand on that idea when we come back in person as well. Last but not least, we do have about 10% of our school is special education. That's actually the state average. We have special education teachers. We do have 4 from 1st all the way up through 5th grade. Our 1st and K teacher is shared. And special education teachers generally push into classes, but it is all based on students' IEPs or individual education plans. So once again, it's really giving our students what they need to be successful. Some students just need consult, which means a special education teacher would check in with them periodically. Some need push-in, to where a special education teacher will push in. We're doing that on Zoom right now. And we'll do it in person to where they can help assist our students. But then also we have a resource block too, where students can get pulled out and get targeted intervention support from a special education teacher. Again, this is all due through IEPs, individual education plans. And we'll talk a little bit about some of our support programs and how you can qualify for those as we move a little bit throughout the program. Do we have any questions that I can help to answer at this point, Michelle?
There are no questions, but if you could just
Mhm.
clarify a little bit what pull out and push in is? I know
Sure,
that was
sure.
the term that was.
Yeah. Let me do that. Sometimes I talk in administrative jargon. So when I say push in is where a teacher would actually push into a classroom. They would physically move into the classroom to help support students. We have a lot of push in our school. One of the things that IB asked for is really inclusion, and we are very, very big on inclusion. Inclusion means that everybody can get what they need without being separated from everybody else. And we've made it a really, really, really big push to make sure that our students are getting the bulk of their services in a classroom with other students that are either like them or gen ed students. We really want to eliminate pulling students out for gifted, pulling students out for ESOL services, and even special ed. But I will tell you, we're always going to do what's best for the student. So if a child has an IEP or a TPC, which is very similar for language learners or accommodation to learning, we're going to do whatever it takes to make sure that we meet that and that we can pull out. But I will tell you, both of the services that we have are targeted, highly certified, qualified teachers pushing into classes. When I say pull out, that means that there'd be a part in the day where a child would physically leave the classroom and go to a different class.
There's
Okay.
one other quick question. Are your K
Yep.
teachers Orton trained?
Yes, great question. Let me talk about that for a second. So all of our K1, 2, and really about 30 of our homeroom teachers have gone through Orton trainings. So we're not Orton certified, Orton accredited, but most of our teachers have gone through a 30-hour course, and several are still doing their 70-hour practicum right now. For those that don't know about Orton, Orton Gillingham is an approach to learning. It's a multisensory approach to learning, and I truly, truly credit that to the success that our students have had at the younger grades that are matriculating now up to the older grades. So when we talk about that, and actually I can hand it over to Tracy for 30 seconds who can touch upon our Foundations Phonics program and how it is tied to Orton. But just really quickly, when we talk about multisensory learning, students are learning by using visual, auditory, kinesthetic, tactile ways of learning phonics, phonemic awareness, vocabulary fluency, and comprehension, the 5 big things for reading. Tracy's phenomenal at this. I'm not. I'm going to give it to her and let her talk about it just for 1 second.
Yes, we use the Foundations Phonics program, and it ties so nicely with our OG training that we have had. And the students get into a routine of how they learn to visualize the letter, use their hands to skywrite. We use bumpy pads, lots of tactile ways of writing these letters, and we do it every day. And they just do a great job with learning how to blend and sound, and it just goes right along into guided reading, which we are doing that right now with our kindergarten classes. So it's amazing how these students have learned through the phonics, the OG, and our reading curriculum. They're doing great.
All right, awesome job. Can you guys still hear me? Can I get a thumbs up if you can hear me? Okay, thank you. I have a weird message that says my speaker's not working, so good. Awesome. Thank you so much for Tracy. I took the share off so you guys could all see who was talking. I'm going to go ahead and put that back on. And without further ado, I do want to jump into one of our awesome language acquisition programs, dual language immersion, DLI, which many of you all probably have some questions about. But many of you may not know this, but Mr. Dwight Hudson happens to be our resident expert in foreign language and dual language immersion. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Dwight.
So thank you, Jay, for that reintroduction. And I did work in, well, this is my, 21st or 22nd year in APS. I started off as a Spanish teacher, so I am bilingual. And I worked as a model teacher for about 5 years in APS, where I served all the high schools and not only supported Spanish classrooms, but Chinese, Latin, French, and Arabic throughout the district and high school. And then they completely wiped out that office and I went into administration. So learning about dual language immersion, we have about 2 classrooms in 8th grade, which service about 25 students each class. And the students are taught in 2 languages. So we have a one-way program and a two-way program. At Brandon, we're in a one-way program, which means all of the learners, or the predominant amount of learners, are English background, and they're learning a second language. In a two-way program, you would have students with 2 languages, whether it's Chinese and English, or Spanish and English, or French and English, and they would learn both in both languages. So, next slide, please. And so that's what we were just discussing there with the 2 languages. Also keep in mind, we focus on the ABCs of DLI, which are academic achievement. So although they're learning in 2 languages, our expectation for learning in both languages are very high. We want them to continue to achieve in both languages. Biliteracy, we focus on reading, writing, speaking, and listening in both languages. In the past, as we did language learning, we would talk about bilingualism, where we just get used to the students being able to speak in 2 languages. But this focus, we're hoping for a completely biliterate student. So by the time that they graduate from high school, they graduate with a seal of biliteracy. So if they continue on to Sutton Middle School, the program will continue there, on into North Atlanta High School, and in the end, they'll be able to take a test and show that they're biliterate in the 2 languages, which are Spanish and English for our school.
And just to piggyback on that, our highest grade level right now is in 4th grade, and they will be moving into 5th grade next year. And then E. Rivers and Garden Hills have 5th graders right now, so Sutton will get the first cohort of DLI next year.
Okay. And so we talked about it being a 50-50 model. The students will have 2 homerooms, an English homeroom and a Spanish homeroom, and they will switch every other week so that they have an opportunity to go to both classes, and some days start the morning in English, and other weeks start the mornings in Spanish.
Mr. Hudson, we had a good question on here, really around how to determine if a child is a good candidate for DLI. Can you talk to us just a little bit about if a student even receives special services, if they can still get into DLI, and what that means?
So it goes back to what you said about being an all-inclusive program. Any student that's interested in learning is a good candidate for the dual language immersion program. Students with special needs are not excluded. Students that are gifted, any student that has a desire to learn the language and has the support can be in there. Sometimes it won't look exactly the same as all the other students, and we may have to tailor it, but it is an all-inclusive program. Everyone is welcome. And if your child has any learning difficulties or anything of that nature where we may need to examine how we do it for them, we can look at a way of making sure that if he is interested or she is interested and gets into the program, that we serve them in DLI, because it is for everyone.
And I have to give a shameless plug right now to show you that we have a group of 52 kindergartners right now who have yet to step foot in the building that are learning half a day in Spanish, one-way program. So students that do not speak any Spanish, and they've been doing this for 9 weeks, and they've been doing it on the computer virtually. And that's just a testament to not just the students and their wherewithal and the parents for sticking with it, but also our amazing, fantastic DLI teachers across all grade levels, but especially in kindergarten right now. They're doing it.
And so throughout the day, and that's true, and they're doing a great job. They're starting to speak, they're starting to respond. We pop into the classes every now and then and see what's going on, and the children, they're hanging in there. It's all they know, so they're doing the best they can, and they are actually speaking in the language, responding, and able to do what the teacher tells them to do. So when we go into the actual classrooms, the Spanish teacher typically teaches Spanish language acquisition, Spanish phonics, math, and science. The English side teaches the social studies, ELA, English language arts, phonics and English, and social studies. But they both reinforce each other in the language. So they're really getting to all the content in both languages, but the predominant side for Spanish are the ones that I explained, and English has its side, but then they reinforce each other in the English. They do songs together, sing together, talk about shapes and things of that nature in both languages so that the child gets strengthened in both languages with everything that they're learning. When we enroll in DLI, our expectation is that students remain through 5th grade, and actually my hope is that they remain through high school and earn that seal of biliteracy, because we need more and more students that are biliterate. I grew up in all over, but I graduated from high school in Germany, and there was so many Germans that spoke English and German and maybe add on French and Spanish. And so when we look at this country, we're not as multilingual as other countries, and our hope is that we begin to develop more and more multilingual students that are biliterate.
And just to answer just one or two questions in here, it says, do you have to enroll in K or can you jump in 1st grade? And we're going to talk about that in just a minute. It's around our priority entry, or how to get into the DLI program. And then we also had a question around how many Spanish speakers are in the program. And I'll just, I know Dwight touched upon this, but we are a one-way program. So the majority or the bulk of our students are English-speaking students, but we do still have a small population of language learners. Many of them are not even Spanish speakers, but I would say on average, there's between 2 to 4 to possibly 5 at our upper grades of Spanish speakers that are in each DLI grade level.
Mm-hmm. So this is our priority admission process. And when you look at it, number 1 is our Spanish speakers who have been identified for ESOL, which means their English needs to be developed. Number 2 is students that are not identified for ESOL, but are Spanish speakers. And then number 3, students who have a home heritage language of English and are from a Spanish immersion or dual immersion program. So many of the students that attend dual immersion pre-Ks and things of that nature, those are the students that would enter going from pre-K into kindergarten. They would have priority admission. Next slide.
Okay. And I do want to say, and thank you, Fran. I do see you on the call. Fran Egan is a branded parent extraordinaire who does have multiple students in DLI. She's helping to answer some questions. She's also a member of our GO team, an elected member of our GO team. So thank you, Fran, for helping with some of those.
So the 4th priority is siblings. And then the final is just a student with English only or English and a language other than Spanish, and no prior participation in a DLI program. So what happens in that process is we take all the applications in, which the district will set a due date that goes throughout the district, right? And once we get all of those applications, we know that we have 25 slots. So we fill them in the priority levels. Those students automatically go in to have priority. And once we go over that number, in any category, then we begin the lottery. And the lottery really is, we pick random numbers, assign them to each application, and we run a random number generator program and select the students through that process. We get our 25 students, the additional 25 students that way per class, and that's how we do it. We film it so that everything is on the up and up, and we go through and we select, we call the parents and say, hey, would you like to accept this? If they say yes, that fills the slot. If they say no, we go to the next person on the list. Also, so that you know, we normally do have a wait list, and the wait list, we will hold on to those students that enter in K and don't make it in all the way through 1st grade. So about at the end of 1st semester of 1st grade, we continue to put students in the wait list. Let's say, for example, a family moves from Brandon and moves out of state, then we will take the next slot and put that next child in.
And just like Mr. Hudson said, you can be accepted up until the end of 1st grade. After that, it's a little bit tough to come into an immersion program. And then Mr. Hudson talked a little bit about the lottery. That generally happens the 1st week in June. All right.
So there's a question, what percentage of applicants are accepted into the program? Great question. I
can say that our 1st and 2nd year, it was a little different this year, because I do think that the virtual model, maybe we didn't have as much interest in the DLI, but we still filled up our slots and still have a wait list. But I do know that our first year we had 60 applicants on the wait list. And then that was 50 already in the program, and we had 150 students total. So you can kind of do the math there, but it really is different every year. Like one year, I remember we had over 20 siblings. So they took up the bulk of one whole class. We had a ton of siblings. So it really is a year-to-year basis around who's coming. All right, well, let's move on a little. Do you have anything else, Mr. Hudson?
Quick question. Well, Margaret is asking, my son is moving here from Puerto Rico and would be enrolled in first grade. Yes, everyone is able to apply. And if your child speaks a language other than other than English, make sure you identify that on what they call the home language survey, which is part of the application process. And we'll take a look at that.
And the enrollment process too. You can just.
Okay. Yeah. And so I'll also type my desk phone number in here if you have specific questions about the program so that you can give me a call at the office, okay?
All right, awesome. Thank you so much, Mr. Hudson. Let's keep moving. In a perfect day, I would have my IB coordinator here today to talk a little bit about International Baccalaureate and what that means. However, he's not able to join us today, so I will take that on. But APS has signature programs that help drive the clusters. They're called a signature program, and you do get additional funds to help fund those programs. The North Atlanta cluster, our signature program is International Baccalaureate. When I was over in the Grady cluster at Morningside, their signature program was college and career readiness. But we are fully embracing IB. We're fully embracing learning through play, like Mr. Hudson talked about, the IB learner profile, which your students will learn all about. We teach from a global perspective and really put that international mindedness in everything that we do at Brandon. I'm going to let you read the slide, but I will tell you a little bit about IB this year. Every 5 years, schools have to go through what's called an IB reauthorization, which can bring about some nerves, right? It's basically a time the IB headquarters from Geneva, Switzerland, send representatives to spend 2 to 3 days at your school. They interview your teachers, they interview your parents, they interview your students, they look at your mission and vision, your language policies, your assessment policies, your inclusion policies. We talked a lot about inclusion at Morris Brandon and keeping our students together, but giving them what they need. Well, of course, 2020, our IB reauthorization fell right in the middle of virtual learning. So with that said, we just recently had our 5-year reauthorization, virtual reauthorization, really just a little over a month ago. The last time they came, we had 12 matters to be addressed. That was back in 2015. A matter to be addressed is an area that doesn't quite fall in line with IB and what their expectations are. While we are still waiting for our report back, we are really confident in the work that we've done around some of our IB teaching, like I said, with the inquiry-based assessments, global perspectives. And then one of the great things we do at our school is called International Travelers Week, which happens generally at the end of the school year, where our students literally, well, figuratively, take off to another country. I think 2 years ago, where'd we go? Last year was India, but of course it was cut short a little bit.
South Africa.
South Africa 2 years ago, which was awesome too. So it's just another exciting thing that we do for our students.
Jay, Karen,
yes.
One thing that we, again, just from the history of our tours and what this pops up a lot, the concept of IB at kindergarten just is so abstract, and a much more, applicable way to think of this is something that, as Jay said, it goes on through middle school and all the way into high school. And what you'll see is in elementary school, this does help build the foundations that the kids will need if they choose to stick with IB all the way through North Atlanta. Right now, kids are leaving private schools left and right to come to North Atlanta High School because of the IB program, because it's so strong and the kids are able to get into colleges that a lot of the private school students are not able to get into because of the IB program and because they have an IB diploma. So it is extremely important, and it really does help to start at a very young age.
Yeah, that's good feedback. We're actually the PYP, which is the primary years program. So IB learning at the kindergarten level looks very different than the 12th grade level. When you move into middle school, it's called the MYP. And then when you get up to high school, if you decide to stay in an IB track, like Karen was discussing, it's called the diploma program. And you can actually earn college credits through IB and so forth. So it definitely does change shape and shift as you move through the grades. Mr. Hudson talked briefly about the new enhanced PYP, it was called. It just came out, where kindergarten are encouraged to really learn through play. We took that on. We spent a lot of money, right, Tracy, on outfitting our kindergarten playroom, which our students loved for the first half of the year last year. And, you know, there's really 3 teachers in there, right? You have your teacher who really just stands back for uninterrupted play. Then you have the student who teaches themselves as they play and interact with other students. And then really the environment that we create for them also teaches it. So it's really cool to see our kindergartners get into that room and be able to play with each other in an uninterrupted, playtime, which is very IB, and we love that. I know we have a couple questions popping up, but just for the essence of time, I want to keep going through these slides, and then we'll take these. We'll take some of these questions if we need to in a little bit. I want to talk about our instructional programs really quickly. Academics are definitely at the forefront at Morris Brandon, but it is not the only thing. We've spoken repeatedly about the importance of social emotional learning, physical learning, the whole child. But we are very proud of our instructional programs and our achievement at our school. First and foremost, for social and emotional learning, every day our students participate in a morning circle where they'll come together with their teachers and they have an SEL lesson through our second step social emotional learning curriculum. And then once a week, our students also receive an SEL lesson or a 30-minute social emotional learning. In kindergarten, that may look like anti-bullying, sharing, kindness, those type of things. And as you get older in 4th and 5th grade and even middle school, obviously those themes change some. My first year at Morris Brandon 3 years ago, we completely adopted an entirely new English language arts curriculum. If you were to look at the history of our school and how we did on standardized tests, we always did very well at the upper grades. 3, 4, and 5 is where we begin to take those state assessments, 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. But you could see our English and language arts were sort of leveling out a little bit, if not dropping a little bit in proficiency. So for example, one year, maybe we were 75% proficient in English and language arts. The next year, maybe it was 73. The next year, maybe it was 71. So we really wanted to look at a program that's going to move us in another direction. We have super high achievers, super high learners. So we adopted a program called Wit and Wisdom, which is just an awesome learning English language arts and writing program. And it's a program that our students will participate in day 1 in kindergarten and the very last day in 5th grade. So they will have this program as it moves all the way through. It very much falls in line with IB. Students participate in lots of conversations. We call it Socratic seminars. They do notice and wonder. So they may look at famous artwork and famous pieces of writing, and they'll write about what they notice and what they wonder about it. But it's just a really good program. In the very first year of implementation, that 18-19 school year, our students jumped almost 30% and distinguished learners, the highest level of learners for English and language arts, because this program just really pushed him so hard. So we really love it. It's we're still rolling with it and still moving with it in a virtual setting, and I think our teachers really enjoy it too. The sister program to Wit and Wisdom is called Eureka Math. They're both by the same company, Great Minds. Eureka Math is a math program that we use all over the North Atlanta cluster, so it's a great math program. Then we recently did just adopt Fundations. We talked about that. Tracy did just for a little bit. Fundations is based in that Orton Gillingham approach to learning. So it's very multisensory. It's a phonics program for our students. Our students do between 30 minutes and an hour of phonics every day from K to 2nd grade, which is really arguably the most important part of the day. And then we also have a phonics program for our DLI kids, which is Estrellitas.
And Jay, I just wanted to talk about also like how Wit and Wisdom being that strong program, it was even bringing up some of our lower learners. It was doing a lot to help the entire school grow. So the distinguished students, they grew, but everyone grew as a result of implementing this program.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to hand it over to Dwight, who's going to talk to us a little bit about some of our special programs, which we also call specials. These are all the things that we offer outside of our core classrooms or our homeroom classrooms.
So once again, going back to that whole child, we want to make sure that they're physically healthy, emotionally healthy, socially well, and just doing a lot of different things to make a well-rounded student. So in addition to our core academics, we also have physical education, music, art, French. So all of the students that are not in the DLI program, that our second language at the school, or actually our main language at the school, which the majority of students learn, is actually French. We also have counseling, where the counselor comes in and works in the classrooms with students as a whole group to identify problems, talk more about their social and emotional learning, and to help them out in their development at whatever grade they're at, and you know, make sure that it's appropriate. Media, where they get to see our media specialists, learn about books, they do book clubs, they read together. And then technology, we have 2 huge labs at each building where the technology teacher actually goes in, teaches the students typing skills, how to access different technology, how to create presentations and different apps and things of that nature. And so the thing that's really great about our specials teachers is they all collaborate together. So when we have any holiday programs, they make sure that it's all inclusive of different religions as well as different languages and cultures. So many times in our programs, we get about 4 languages? I've seen Hebrew, Spanish, French, and of course English in some of our programs. So they make sure that they cover the gambit and they work together to help with that international mindedness and those well-rounded students that we'd like to see.
And I love it that even in a virtual setting, our students all still have specials blocks throughout the day. And these special teachers you see in front of you jump onto our students' Zoom, and they're still participating in a virtual setting, and especially in person. So I want to take just a second to talk a little bit about some special services. We do realize that every child, every student has their individual and special needs. So these are some of the other programs that we do offer and staff that we do offer to support our students. Most of these do fall under the need to have an IEP or an individual education plan. But we do have the capacity to offer PT, physical therapy, OT, occupational therapy, speech, and then those are the ones that we write accommodations for our students. And then for any student that wants it, we offer counseling. We have a social worker that works with us. And then we have 3 awesome intervention teachers. I said this maybe earlier, but when we first came on at Brandon, we only had 1 teacher who did intervention, and we really felt like that we were missing some of our students. So we created positions to hire 2 more really awesome targeted intervention teachers who are very trained in Orton and the approach to learning, the multisensory piece. So now our students have the opportunity to go to math and reading intervention at either building. Any questions that I can answer while we have this quick little break before we move on? You guys are doing a good job answering them in the chat box.
Do you want to speak a little bit about how the IB program provides the STEM opportunities, for the science, technology, engineering, and math?
Sure. So I want to be clear that IB is very different than STEM. That STEM and STEAM is actually a signature program of another cluster in APS. So our focus, and we're not shy about this, is not around as much of science and technology and engineering classes, but that's not to say that we don't offer that. We do have 2 full-time technology teachers who work with our students at part of the specials block. They do coding, but primarily at our upper grades, they're teaching them how to type, since we do take our state assessments online. We do have that teacher also doubles over as our technology teacher and helps to bring our students to the APS Tech Fair. So it kind of is all wrapped up into one, but it's just important to know that IB and STEAM are very different, and our focus is more along the lines of language acquisition, because IB has very much a requirement to have proficiency in language, while STEAM has some different qualifications and guidelines as well.
And just to also add to that, though, another portion or another specific aspect of IB is inquiry-based learning, where the students start off with a problem and they have to solve it through questioning and things of that nature. And that's very much scientific based. But although the programs are different, we still touch on the inquiry base and the science part of it through our regular classrooms and in our all-encompassing curriculum.
And we do teach science. I know we didn't talk about our science and social studies programs. Our science program, STEM Scopes, is an awesome program. We have to teach science every day, as well as social studies through a social studies weekly curriculum. So we do teach science, social studies, ELA, math, health, reading, and SEL are what your kids are going to get every day. And phonics falls under the ELA part.
Mr. Bland, our Wit and Wisdom program runs seamlessly with our science and social studies program in kindergarten. So it's almost like they're getting a double dip with those standards.
That's one of the reasons why we chose the program. So that is very true. A lot of it, and IB talks a lot about interdisciplinary learning. So you can see that some of our ELA curriculum totally overlaps with science and social studies throughout the day. Okay, I do want to talk just for a second about enrollment. Generally, I would put up an enrollment date on here to when open enrollment would begin. We just don't have that date right now. So we are encouraging our parents for now. Generally, enrollment opens in April, and we should have a date for in-person enrollment. We call it kindergarten roundup. We want to get as many of our kindergartners enrolled as possible. Our awesome clerks and secretaries at both buildings were able to get nearly 80 kindergartners enrolled in 1 week last year using what's called OLR, or online registration. So I do want to say that right now, from my understanding, enrollment will probably still be online enrollment. And you can actually, you could literally get on Google and type in online APS enrollment, and it'll take you to the OLR page. We're not there yet though, so hang tight. That generally opens around April anyways. But just know these are some of the guidelines and some of the things that you will need in order to enroll at Morris Brandon for the 21-22 school year. I do want to take a second to answer any enrollment questions. So if there's anything on there about what we need to bring or around enrollment, and I will also say, I'm going to type my email. Maybe Mr. Hudson can while I'm talking into the chat box, Jay Bland, and anybody can shoot me an email at any time with any questions around kindergarten or kindergarten enrollment.
Just a quick question, if we're going to have a separate information session for the DLI program, which I believe we will, right?
We do, but we don't, we generally, Hudson, correct me if I'm wrong, we do that program after the students have been selected. Am I correct on that?
Usually, yes.
So we generally don't do a huge DLI push for our students because we also know that DLI is not for everybody. But once DLI, once we give out the information, then what we will do is we will bring all of our parents together for a DLI informational session. Okay.
Jay, can I throw out a couple of questions that we typically get
Yeah,
on
please.
the board, if that's all right? Just and one question that just came up really quick in the chat was about if there's any specifics that make Brandon stand out over Jackson Smith or the other elementary schools. And I don't know if you want to address that. Those are other elementary schools in our clusters that share the same curriculum as us, and those are our BFFs, for lack of a better word.
They are. I will say that every school is unique. Jackson and Sarah Smith are phenomenal. I mean, I can't, I mean, there's nothing that's going to say that that our school is going to be better than any of those schools, because every school is phenomenal in their own right. Also know that every school has its own demographics. You know, Jackson has a smaller population than we do. They have almost 300 students less. Sarah Smith has a very large English speaking of other languages population, something that we don't have. You know, you can look at the CCRPI scores and compare those if you wanted to. But for the most part, we are the only one-way IB, a DLI program, which means Jackson does not even have DLI, and Sarah Smith is a two-way program. We are one-way, meaning the bulk of our students, or the majority, are English speakers. We are the only school in all of APS, with the exception of one elementary, that uses the Wit and Wisdom curriculum that we adopted, and we love that curriculum, and we're the only people that use that as well. But for the most part, I think what makes our school so amazing, honestly, are our teachers and our staff. And as soon as you step foot in the building and you have your child in a class, you'll see that you've made the right choice. I'd love to take credit for all of that, but it's not me. It's the teachers and our families.
Jay does a phenomenal job with coordinating with the other principals of those schools and the other 3 in our cluster. They work together a lot, and it benefits all the students across the elementary schools. And then somebody else asked about whether or not there was video tours of the classrooms, and that is, those exist, but we're going to work on getting something more more that makes more sense for this type of meeting. But really quick, so we typically get questions about whether or not parents can request friends in classes, whether or not they can, how they can, or they can request certain teachers for kindergarten, things like that. Transportation, how does, and I guess this is in an in-person setting because none of this really matters now. Meals, what is food like at school? What do the kids typically need to bring? Or those are very common questions that we get on tours. Don't know if anybody has those questions here or not, but.
Sure. Well, let me touch upon just a little bit of that. The first one, let's talk about the food, right? So we do offer breakfast and lunch to all students. Last year, we were actually, it was called a CEP program, or a community eligibility program, and APS had this through our charter. So actually every student at Morris Brandon last year was eligible for free and reduced lunch. That's not the case for this year or most likely next year. But food works in 2 ways. One, if you qualify for free or reduced lunch, all you do is turn in a lunch form early on in the year. Your teacher will give that to you, and they'll give you an ID or a lunch number, and then you're free to go about getting breakfast and lunch every day at either building you're at. But then we also offer lunch like on a debit card program. So you can put money on your student's account, and then children can go through and just get a la carte items if they want to, or get lunch as well. You had a question around transportation as well. Was that right, Karen? Yep. So transportation is offered to every student that lives in Morris Brandon zone. We really have 3 ways for getting your kids to school. We have the bus riders, we have our carpool riders, and we have our walkers. And it creates for quite a morning, but we do it very organized. We generally have about 300 car riders. We have 10 buses at Morris Brandon. Some of them are packed with 72 kids. Some of them will have a lot less. I anticipate less bus riders next year. And we also have our walkers, our neighborhood students that can walk to school, and we encourage that as well when you're able to do that. Another question we had, what was the other one, Karen? Transportation, food?
Classes, like requesting a friend or requesting.
Yes, that's right.
Things
Well,
like that.
I love to give special accommodations to our kindergarten students. I really do, because it's such an important time of year, and it's so important that our kindergartners learn to appreciate school and enjoy school, and it shouldn't be something that's laborsome or not fun or miserable. So we do open up a window for what's called our parent input forms, and that generally comes towards the end of the year, really right around when your enrollment time starts, so that March, April, May window. And we encourage all families, anybody, K-5, to print the form out, and it'll be posted on our website and the email and everything else, and tell us a little bit about your child. What do we need to know about your child? I will tell you that I pretty much hand place every single student in our building, because every child is going to be successful with a teacher. It's just a matter of who that teacher is going to be. What teacher is going to be the best fit for your child's learning? So I love to hear from our kindergartners first. I want to know how it went in preschool. I want to know how it went in your daycares. I want to know what helps your children learn. And then you also have a place on there to talk about students that you would like to be placed with. It's just a consideration. But if you were to list that we would like our student to be with, Timmy, then I will do my best to place him with Timmy, and that's how we do it. Also, we give the student the opportunity, the parents, and this happens a lot because these forms are very confidential, to say if there's a child or a student that maybe you shouldn't be with. Maybe it's somebody you've been with for a long time. Maybe it's somebody they don't always get along with. But we want to put our students in the best possible situation for learning, so we want to hear that. We do not let parents request teachers by using a name, and we ask that because it is our goal to find that best match. So again, parents don't request teachers, but they can ask for other students in the building. All right, any other questions that I can jump to? We are right around 11 o'clock. I think I had one question in there that I read about the schedule. And I'm happy to talk about that just briefly. And I can tell you, and actually maybe Tracy can talk about that. Tracy, can you just walk us through in about 30 seconds about what a typical kindergarten schedule looks like? And then we're talking face-to-face, not virtual.
Face-to-face. All right. Yes. So we come in the mornings. The students arrive at 7:30, and we have different activities for them to do in the mornings. And then we start with our SEL calendar, and we go through our phonics lesson. And then after that, we will have a snack break. And then we move into our reading lesson with Wit and Wisdom. And that's whole group. And then we break into small groups. And then we have recess, math, then lunch, then recess, and then we have specials in the afternoon. Last year we had an intervention block, and it was like every other day. So we might have an extra amount of time in our classroom for just meeting the different needs of the students. And then on the opposite day, you might get to go to the playroom, or you might get to go to outside recess again for a little bit. So just different things, but we're very engaged, and the students are reading, writing, spelling, and doing math, and we integrate experiments and just lots and lots of hands-on experiences every day.
Awesome. And you bring up a good point that every student at Morris Brandon, no matter the grade, will get a 45-minute specials during the day and a 30-minute lunch and a 30-minute outdoor recess. That's a non-negotiable for me. By the way, I'm an ex-PE teacher and coach, so I understand the importance of physical activity. So I'm all for getting our kids outside and playing. By the way, I love this photo right here. This was from literally 2 weeks ago, the Friday before Halloween. I know it may be a little small for you all to see, but these are our staff. This is probably 3/4 of our staff. They all came into school, masked up, ready to do a drive-by for our kindergarten students for book character dress-up day. That's me right there in the middle, Alexander Hamilton. I'm sure Ms. Birch is there, Mr. Hudson's over there, but just shows you how much our teachers really care about our students. It was great to see all of them. We did talk about the parent input. Here it is again. Somebody asked a little bit about our being able to give a little bit of input around class placement for next year, so that will come out. And this was, yeah, it looks like we already have the due date on there, so we'll make sure that's readily available. And then I just want to show you your kindergarten team, because this is such a phenomenal team. I talked about this earlier, but to be able to have 15 dedicated adults to work with your kindergartners is something that we are very proud of. It takes a lot of budgeting, takes a lot of staffing decisions, takes a lot of teamwork. But I'm just going to let Ms. Birch talk really quickly about her team, maybe just introduce some of the teachers.
Yes. So Ms. Halliday and Ms. Estrada, those are the two DLI teachers. Ms. Halligan, she is our reigning queen. She has been here the longest. She's our go-to person for everything. This is my second year in kindergarten. I've been at Morris Brandon for 4 years, but kindergarten is my love. This is Miss Lucky. And I also am the co-taught teacher for kindergarten this year and last year. Miss Lucky, she has been here, I think, for 14 years. And Miss Meeser, I think she's been here 16 years. Miss Murphy has been here, I believe, 6 years. And Miss Hoekstra has been here maybe 8 or 10 years. And the paras are right under the teachers that we work alongside with every single day. And they are absolutely phenomenal. We'll do anything, go above and beyond to make sure these kids have everything that they need. And they have been alongside us through this virtual journey as well. They are there every day, showing up, and we go into our breakout rooms and they take a class. I mean, we just work together so well, and it's just a great team. It's a happy, happy place to work every single day. I love it.
Awesome. Thank you, Tracy. The K-paras have also gone through our 30-hour Orton course, or several of them have. I want to say 6 out of the 7 of them have. and they are phenomenal. Tracy did mention she's a co-taught teacher. I just want to tell you what that is. We do have one co-taught class in every grade level, depending on our students with special needs and how many we have. A co-taught class means that Tracy works very closely with a special education teacher inside of her classroom. So generally, the students that have these IEPs or the individual education plans are placed into the co-taught classroom where they can get a little bit of extra support in there during the day. There's one on every grade level. They are chock full of gen ed students as well. And honestly, as your students move through Morris Brandon, there's a very high likelihood that they will be in a co-taught classroom before they graduate 5th grade. I want to just talk to you really quickly about signing up for some communication. I do have a Remind app that I use very regularly. Feel free to sign up for that. If you don't want to sign up yet, feel free to wait because you're going to get a lot of text messages. So I recommend maybe just kind of holding on to that and then signing up as we get a little bit more into the spring semester. I talked a little bit about morrisbrandon.com and being able to visit some of our informational pop-up sites that we have on there. You can always follow me on Facebook, Jay Bland. I don't put new information on there, but I generally just put pictures and talk about awesome things that are happening at school. And then you can sign up for the B-mail as well, which is our school newsletter through morrisbrandon.com. And I'm actually just going to show you how to do that really quickly because if I don't, it can get a little bit confusing. So you're going to go to the morrisbrandon.com page. You're going to scroll to the top. Hold on one second. You're going to go over to Be Informed, I believe. Try that one more time. Yep. And then you can sign up for the B-mail here. Okay. Sometimes it can be a little difficult to find. Michelle, do you have anything?
I placed that link in the chat earlier
Awesome.
directly to the subscription page, and I can put that down again.
Okay. Well, I could go to the very last slide, but all it does is ask for questions. So that is all I have today. I will just open it up one more time for any questions that are inside the chat box that I did not get to. Michelle, anything else in there? Karen, anything from you? Well, I just want to be the first to thank you again for joining me today. We do know that there's a lot of unknowns in the future, but I can tell you without a doubt, our motto this year has been flexibility and adaptability. And I think that if we did not have that motto, that we wouldn't be as successful as we are right now. I think our students are doing phenomenal. I think our teachers are doing an amazing job. I think that our parents are sticking with it, and I know it's challenging, but we're doing it. And I'm a testament of a kindergarten student who is reading and has made just incredible growth in almost 3 months of virtual learning. And we want to thank you guys for being here. Thank you, Mr. Hudson, for also being here. He's your point of contact for the primary center. Thank you, Ms. Birch, our kindergarten teacher extraordinaire. Karen, for putting all this together. Thank you so much. And then to our PTA president, Michelle Hatch.
Real quick, there's a question about how to get involved. You can go to the PTA information on the website, but you can also reach us at presidents@morrisbrandon.com if you have any specific questions.
I also had one question that came about around information around reopening and what that may look like. I refer our parents to this page right here. It's called Talk Up APS. You can Google it and it'll take you to this one. This is our communications page for Atlanta Public Schools. And you can scroll down to the superintendent's corner, which is right here. And that is Dr. Lisa Herring's blog, where she puts up the most up-to-date information. It will always be on here. We generally grab that and put it on our website as well. But information will be coming out generally through this means and then through the school around reopening for in-person learning and then especially for 2021, 2022. Okay. Is there a pre-K program at Brandon? There is not. We do not have a pre-K program at Morris Brandon. Thank you, Jim. See you later. Someone wants to know if we can put the URL in the chat. Is that? I guess that's for the Talk Up APS. Let me grab that really quickly.
It's there, Bland.
Yeah, quite.
Yeah, you put it in there? Good.
Mm-hmm.
All right. All right, so we're going to go ahead and close it down, everybody. Thank you so much. We can't wait to see you in person. and stay tuned for a lot more information.